Hi, this is Paula, and we're here for the Common Book Show again today. Richard is here, Joel is here, of course, my son Tom on drums, and we have people. We have Virginia and Paul and Matt, and am I missing somebody? Oh, I think we got everybody. Okay. All right. So today we were just talking about a short film about a project that's going to take place, or they're talking about taking place in Buffalo. So I don't know, Richard, do you want to start it with that short clip?
Sure. There it is. Here we go. Let's see, where's the...
So it's about the Kensington Expressway project. They're talking about covering it.
Come on, play.
Buffalo is on the verge of another generational mistake.
Yes, this is the open road your state is building for your future.
A mistake that has cost lives in the past and will continue to cost lives into the future. In the 1960s, Humboldt Parkway, the grandest street in Olmsted's parkway system, was targeted for removal. We're talking 3 times the size of Bidwell, completely removed from existence. In its place, a canyon of cars. 60 years later, with $1 billion in hand and an opportunity to undo this wrong, the state ignored full removal with the intention of maintaining vehicular capacity.
To keep the traffic flowing again, we're just going in the same direction.
Their proposal, an unfiltered tunnel that covers only a quarter of the corridor. Touting claims of reconnection, their plan will maintain high levels of car exhaust, specifically at each end of the tunnel, in direct violation of the CLCPA. Despite this, the state refuses to release an environmental impact statement. Maintenance on the tunnel is expected to be around $5 million a year, all to be shouldered by state taxpayers. What do the taxpayers have to say about this project? Over $1 billion for a tunnel that dismantles wealth, jeopardizes our health, and fails at reconnecting our neighborhood should not be an option. The collective discourse from those in the city imagines their grand parkway completely rebuilt in a way that is not only cheaper, but will genuinely benefit their community. Rochester has done it and reaped the benefits, and Syracuse is next in line. So I ask, why not us?
Oh, I like it.
I like it too.
It makes sense, and I agree. I think a tunnel's a bad idea. Matt, now you're doing some kind of research about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, Matt is like on top of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've just been going to a few meetings and browsing through the, some of the documents. There's just a lot. So I think I have a good understanding of what's going on. I guess I was at the Eastside Parkways meeting on Thursday, and the project is really in the stage of like lawfare, so filing lawsuits, and then I think doing media like that video just to get word out, because I don't think people, no one really knows about it.
I didn't know about it until I started talking to you about it. I had no idea this was going on. I mean,
Yeah.
not that I'm so up on Buffalo news, but I was surprised when you told me about the tunnel situation.
Yeah.
It doesn't even
So like
make
I say,
sense to do it.
No, I don't think so. I think that whole area, that thing that they showed, the parkway with the actual greenery in the middle, I mean, if people need to get places fast, they can take the thruway.
Yeah.
I can go any place on the thruway that almost any place, but keep the thruways are not going anywhere. Just make that more of just a city parkway. Why not?
Yeah, I think one of the things that they didn't mention in there. So this is like the first phase that the state says is going to happen, but part of the problem is the reason that they stopped the tunnel so short is because there's this Skagit drain underneath the Kensington. So just like they buried the creek down there, so they haven't really thought through basically if the project's built as it is now, it'll make any second or third phases that actually continue all the way to Delaware Park like virtually impossible, or way more technically harder than it needs to be.
Right.
They haven't really thought that through. Because the Parkway system used to connect like Delaware Park all the way down to MLK Park, and
Yeah, it was designed by Olmsted. So it was apparently just it was a beautiful system, but I don't remember. I mean, when was the highway built? When was the
60s.
In the 60s.
Well, I have no recollection of anything else before that. So
I can remember the trees on Humboldt Parkway.
I do remember my aunt lived near there, and we used to go there. We used to go to there was a pool, or there was an ice skating rink too. So we'd go ice skating where MLK Park is right now, and Humboldt Park, and we'd go skating there. But I remember there being a lot of trees, but I don't have a clear memory of how anything was situated or anything like that.
Yeah, my father was the manager of Sattlers. So my mother would pick him up from work, and she'd go straight down Humboldt, and then she would just cut across. And I do remember the trees.
Here's a photo from the Buffalo News.
Oh, okay.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, I don't know why people have to get places fast. Really, I mean.
Well, it's not even that. I mean, if you look at just the basic trajectory of green space versus more car traffic, you're going to want to head toward more green space. I mean, that's pretty cut and dry.
I mean, for us, yes.
Well, I mean,
but we're liberals. We're not.
But it's not even that. I mean, we're maybe 15 years ago it would have been just us, but like it's pretty. There may be opposition to it, but it's pretty understood that all the changes in weather, everything that's going on with climate, when you're basing a decision like this on this scale with that much money, and you're going in the wrong direction, you really have to question what are the motives of why they're doing this.
Yeah, I certainly do agree with that, but then you've got a whole bunch of evangelical Christians who are running around thinking that this is the end of times. that okay, it's the end of times now, so who cares how much gas we use? Who cares what happens to the planet? We're all, it's over. Who depends who you're talking to,
Well, I mean, always knowing your audience, but hopefully, if you care enough, you get into positions of decision making to influence concrete, practical, common sense solutions to things.
Yeah.
And going green versus more traffic, pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you 100%. I just think that there's a lot of people that are in politics right now who not only the evangelicals, but other people who are just greedy and don't care about the environment. They don't care if the Earth's going to, because they figure it won't happen in their lifetime.
I mean, I'm sure that there are many nice Republican people.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure that there are, but man, in our federal government, I don't see it too much. I see such a cluster of self-interest and varying degrees of disconnect from reality and truth, mobilized by propaganda and spinning things in ways that are convenient to oppose policies that really there's no position. They have no position.
Right. Look at the House of Representatives. The people that are in the House of Representatives are people who, if they weren't doing this job, they'd have to work as a clerk someplace. They're not necessarily highly educated people, certainly not intelligent people. I'm saying on both sides. The thing is, their job is so cool right now that they don't want to go back to being the manager of Macy's in Des Moines. They don't want to do that. They've got all these perks. They've got a car. They've got a staff. They've got an office in Washington.
Health insurance.
They've got health insurance. They've got everything that they could possibly want, and they will do anything. They will hang on with their claws and their teeth to keep these positions, and they feel that by just going along with the party line, which is, of course, Trump, they're going to keep their jobs.
Go Trump.
I mean, I have a very low opinion of politicians across the board. I think people like Bernie Sanders are the odd man out. You know, he's willing to stick up for people, and he's willing to fight for what's right, no matter how it affects him financially or his position.
Right. And I think, Paula, what I'm saying is that I see a lot of disconnect from the reality that I'm in with the GOP. Yeah. I mean, severe, long-standing disconnect from reality.
But don't you think that in their heart of hearts, they actually know what's going on, but
no.
they choose not to? Because
I don't think that they have the discernment, analysis skills. I don't think that they have the orientation towards what is real or good for community. I think they found themselves in some sort of happenstance of like, it's like second Bush saw he could get elected by the evangelical vote, played to that and got in office, and you look how that played out. Like he figured out a way to get in there to play the system so he could get in, but he hadn't a fucking clue what to do once he was in there, and it was so clear and evident. And then you that's exponential with Trump.
So I don't know who's got a darker vision, you or me.
Well, my vision is actually pretty hopeful because we are in a democracy, and there are self-correcting elements, and there are unseen forces at work which I know are beneficial and altruistic and
good,
influencing things that are positive.
I'm going to stay hopeful then.
You should. You should.
Okay, so boy, we got started off with politics today. All right, so I was going to read something else from my book, but you know what? I'm so sick to death of it's all I've been doing for the past months is going over these stories. So I'm not going to do that. So Richard, what do you have on your list today to start with?
I want to show you something from food shopping yesterday. Okay.
Okay.
I'm checking out my food, and the self-checkout. Mm-hmm. And the light goes off, meaning you did something wrong. And so the guy comes over and he swipes his card and it reactivates the machine.
Yeah.
And he looks and he goes, "Are you getting ready to cash out?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Did you swipe your bonus card?" I said, "Yeah, you do it when you first come in. Welcome, Topps bonus member."
Yeah.
And he said, "Do it again." So there it is, 75.62.
Yeah.
I swiped the bonus card.
Yeah.
And look what happens. Hey, you can't go backward? I guess you can't. Got to do it this way then. Now let's go back to the one beat.
That's how much you saved with the bonus card?
All because he said sometimes it doesn't register when you do it the first time.
Wow, that's quite a difference.
Yeah. I was under the illusion that I was, when it says buy one, get one free, and you use your card, that's what it is. If you don't use your card, you pay for two.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, this is a mistake of the computer. Is it, let's not fix it, it's in our favor? Or is it truly a mistake?
Yeah. You wonder.
It's got to be a mistake.
But the thing is that's
because
you obviously do you make a list every week from the paper? Do you check the paper and buy things according to that, or do you just?
No, I just buy based on what I need.
Right, that's what I thought. So you just got lucky that week that there were so many buy one get one in your favor.
Well, I learned something, and I learned always do it at the beginning and do it again at the end.
Well, yeah, definitely. I generally don't shop at Topps. I usually shop at Aldi's, and then if I need something special, I'll go to Topps or Wegmans. But that's quite a difference. That's remarkable.
Yeah, I'll say that the computer probably did exactly what it was told. It was whoever told that computer what to do. I feel like that's one of the errors that's probably like there in place because it benefits the company there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm curious how many people, how much money do they make by people thinking they swiped, got the bonus deal, and then didn't? It doesn't even notice.
And right, so people are so busy that they're not looking carefully at their receipts. I mean, unless something seems weird, unless it seems too high to me, I won't look at my receipt. But
And I shop at Aldi's, and I'm blown away sometimes. They'll have one cashier for the whole store, and that cashier, they've eliminated all the baggers. People used to
yeah,
bag groceries, but they usher
they
the
have.
cashier that cashier is making. What are they making per hour?
Where do
for a
you,
whole?
oh, they actually pay them very well at Aldi's. Aldi's is one of the places that takes care of their employees pretty well. Like
They're making at least what, $15
no,
an
they
hour
make
at
they
least.
make well that's minimum wage. They make $20 an hour there, like almost $20 an hour, which I think is. I mean, that's one of the reasons I like to shop there because I know that they take care of their employees. Which Aldi's do you shop at?
The one on Broadway.
Oh,
Like I
okay.
said, the cashiers have been around, but sometimes there's like 40 people in the store, and you have one cashier.
I
but you
have
one
two.
security
Yeah,
guard.
I have two Aldi's near me, and one has only cashiers, and the other one has self checkout. So they've got like I don't know, 10 self checkout kiosks. So I always use that because mostly everything at Aldi's has a code, except for certain fruits and vegetables you buy individually, and then you have to weigh them, and that's not hard. So I prefer that at this point in time. I don't want to wait in a long line. Do you go to self-check? No, yeah, you go to self-checkout because that's what you were doing, right? Yeah.
They should lower the price of groceries, seeing as how you're doing the store's work.
I agree. That is something I think you should get a discount, or you should get at least free bags.
Yeah, back in the day,
Something,
somebody would bag your groceries, and now you got to bag
Yeah.
it yourself, or you got to scan it.
Well, when I was working as a job coach, that was one of the jobs that I could get people with intellectual disabilities was, bagging groceries or doing carts. And now they don't hire those people or greeters
start
at Walmart.
You should start a boycott to not use self-checkout machines and see what the stores would do if nobody was using them.
Yeah. Well, even Savers. Savers is a thrift shop. Savers has self-checkout. And I mean, I wonder how many people just neglect to ring up all their items.
A lot.
That's a huge-
A lot.
I mean,
You should, my wife's in retail and she runs, so the stores out here, it's called Dollarama, which is equivalent to Dollar General.
yeah.
And she runs a multitude of stores, and she trains the managers of these stores to use them right. And the theft that it's ridiculous how thousands of dollars a day go out the door unscanned because they'll scan something, and then the second item they'll either put it under something and it makes it look like they scanned it, but they didn't. But it's all caught. We catch it all on camera, and you catch them, but you can't do nothing with them because it's not worth the paperwork and calling the police and all the bullshit just to prosecute them because it's such a small amount.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that happens. Unbelievable. You used to see how much money goes out the door.
Yeah. Well, it crossed my mind a couple times, and I said, "Nah, it's not worth it. I'm not going to do that." I have a lot of larceny in my soul.
Right.
I try to keep it under control.
You're a kleptomaniac. Okay. All right.
No, it was anyway. So you that was a good catch, but I agree with you. Scan it both times from now on because you never know. It was just a fluke. So, Joel, what do you
Does
read?
it give you that option when you go there? Does it say? I mean, I know you scan it usually before you check out, and then after you check out, does it give you that option to scan it again?
No, it just says that you should swipe your credit card.
Yeah, that's why it's tricky.
Right, but it doesn't.
If it was truly in the service of people, it would say, now swipe
Make
your bonus
sure.
card again and then swipe your credit card.
They're not after that though.
There's a reason it doesn't
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah, that's true.
So when you check out, you have to get a hold of the clerk to.
No, you can
No.
scan your own bonus card.
You can scan it again. You can
Twice?
scan it twice.
Twice? You
yeah.
can do it again? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
Yeah. So so let's.
I was once at a restaurant, and
Yeah.
there was a tiny little sign. It was less than a half an inch, and it was up behind the restaurant, behind the counter.
Yeah.
No tipping. And I said to the waitress, "Why is that sign so small?" She said, "There's a reason for everything."
Hey, Richard, I think you should do humanity a favor and make little signs next time you go to the store and says, "Scan your bonus card twice."
Oh, you can make stickers and stick them on all the.
Could do that.
This is a public service.
Yeah.
Yeah, PSA.
Yeah. All right. So, Joel, what are you up to, and what are you reading, or what are you working on?
It's funny you ask, Paula, because, I have Education Training Center Incorporated is the nonprofit that I founded to address mental health distress and its marginalization. So, and there's a gradation of mental health in everyone. Every human being has different levels of mental health.
Oh, absolutely. I agree
And
with
so
that 100%.
I've created a lot of programs. A podcast started here in 2007 with Richard, Unraveling Religion, to build an existential, spiritual, or religious foundation to help people make meaning of trauma. Because if you can make meaning of trauma, it's much easier to overcome and accept and move past.
What do you think I'm doing here?
Yeah, right. That's the reason for the writing, right? That's
Right.
the reason for the writing. But I also have a poetry series
Yeah.
called,
Nice.
thank you.
Very
yeah,
nice. Yeah.
I have a poetry series called Ground and Sky Poetry Series. And you were going to ask me initially, what are we reading? And I wanted to say we're reading Dr. Isladdin Abulayash's I Shall Not Hate, which Isladdin Abulayash is a Palestinian-born, Gazan-born doctor trained in Israel who 1 year delivered, he's an OBGYN, delivered in Israel more babies than any other doctor in Israel. And there are a lot of doctors in Israel.
Yeah.
Per capita, there are more doctors in Israel than any other country. And so he is actually now in Toronto, at the University of Toronto, at the medical school. And so a couple years back, I took my phone with my voice memo notes and asked if I could come have a conversation recorded for Unraveling Religion. And we had a wonderful conversation. And then, I Shall Not Hate. But why I say all this is because I have Ground and Sky Poetry Series has Once Trees Book Club, and the book we're reading is I Shall Not Hate by Isladdin Abulayash for March.
Oh, great. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. So did you actually go up and speak with him, or did you speak with him over the phone?
No, I spoke with him in person, and it was
Oh, how cool.
The guy's presence is like he is a formidable spiritual presence. Like he's no joke. And the whole premise of I Shall Not Hate is he lost his 3 daughters and niece to an Israeli tank shell that shelled his house in I think 2007. I'm not
Wow.
exactly sure, but it stopped the war because there was a conflict in Israel and Palestine, and he was the bridge between the two. He was narrating on the news the war, and he saw his house get shelled, and he's crying out. And that stopped.
how
That stopped
horrible.
the conflict. That stopped the conflict at that time.
That's really awful.
Yeah,
That's a horrible experience for anybody.
Yeah, but he's been very prominent speaking on Palestine's behalf today. He's very well recognized as a leader for the Palestinians. So yeah.
Well, all of that's fascinating. I'm going to have to look into that book. That sounds interesting to me.
It's so interesting.
I know
yeah.
what you mean, though, by being in someone's presence who you feel is like a higher spirit or something like that. I met Pierre Vilat.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and
The Sufi?
yeah,
Yeah.
and he and I was in a big group of people, and he kind of stopped talking, and I had something really important on my mind, and he turned to me, and he gave me the answer to the question.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And then he started talking again, and I asked my friend Steve, who I was with, I said, "Steve, was that a non sequitur? What just happened?" And he said, "I don't know, but he was looking at us." And I said, "Oh, shit." And it had to do with Greg. It had to do with Greg. Greg and I were not talking. We hadn't talked for like a week. And I was done. I said, "That's it. I'm done with him."
Yeah.
And he just looked at me and he said, "Just go back and love him."
Oh.
And he changed right back to what he was talking about.
Yeah.
And Steve was like, "What the hell just happened?"
Yeah.
Yeah, so we made up after that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an amazing story. Yeah.
I was flabbergasted. I couldn't, I still can't believe it because I'm not really somebody who believes in stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you can't, when it happens, it's like, oh, maybe it was some kind of vibe. Maybe I just looked unhappy. Maybe how did he see me from there? From the stage.
Well, it's interesting because what I learned from Dr. Isladin Abalayesh is that it is not Judaism or Christianity or Islam that is the problem, because Dr. Isladin Abalayesh is Muslim, and he has an enormous capacity for understanding tolerance, differences in other cultures and religions and ways of being. And so from that interaction with him, I could extrapolate that the problem is with mindsets in religious communities of us versus them, or tribalism.
Yeah, absolutely. People screw up everything.
Yeah.
It's not the ideas that come down from the people who have them in the first place.
Right.
It's everything around it.
It's a culture that surrounds it that they lack real leadership, so they get entrenched in the beliefs. The beliefs become more important than the people.
Yeah, I think that people mess up everything.
Well,
yeah.
I think what happens when you have those three broad scopes of a religious practice is that people don't know what the other religion's about.
Yeah,
and they assume.
Yeah,
they
that's
assume.
really true.
Yeah.
They assume things, because I have heard such really ridiculous things that people actually really do believe about another religion.
Yeah, it's ignorance.
And I have been unable to tell them anything different, because somebody stands in front of them and tells them one thing, and they believe it.
Yeah, the one thing that sticks,
instead of doing an investigation on their own, and finding out.
There's an ex-nun whose name is Karen Armstrong, and she writes about religion. She's brilliant, and I can highly recommend any books that she writes about any religion. My favorite book of hers is The History of God. She's amazing. But I do say, if you're going to read that book, you should keep notes on the names, because I got so confused in the Middle Eastern names that I got lost, and I had to reread it a couple times. But there's a situation, and this is a true story. My stepfather ended up in the hospital after 9/11. He had a heart attack, and he was in Buffalo General, and I was running into the hospital, and I overheard a conversation in the foyer. There were these 2 or 3 people talking, and they were saying this stuff about people of the Islam faith. And one guy said, well, they worship those blue gods. And I was going to just let that go, and I was going to walk away. And I couldn't. I stopped, and I said, I hate to interrupt your conversation. I said, but they worship the same God we do. It's the same God.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to hear it. He couldn't believe it. It couldn't be possible. It couldn't be the same God.
I mean, the interesting thing about Islam itself is that, it's a much more inclusive religion than either Christianity or Judaism, because there's a recognition of all the world's prophets.
Yeah. Oh, I know. But there's a lot of problems too, because you have to, the whole thing with women. No.
Yeah. But I'm not talking about how it's culturally manifest. I'm talking about the inherent teachings that there's a general recognition. I'm not talking about how it arises in different cultures.
They are very inclusive in their purest sense, and
the spirit of the teaching is meant to be inclusive.
Yeah.
So you can say, peace be upon Jesus, peace be upon Mary, peace be upon Moses, and not mean it, and it doesn't do any fucking good.
Yeah.
But if you understand what's really being said, that can be transformative.
Yeah. And it's gotten a lot. All religions have become bastardized, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But if you read the fundamental stuff, it's pretty. It's good. It's a good thing. It's good. It's love. But it's not. It doesn't manifest itself in that way.
I mean, that's very apparent, right?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. So we have a picture that is that a did Paul move into a warehouse? Paul, where are you, Paul?
Like he's in a garage.
He probably went to the bathroom. Okay, we won't. So anyway, Virginia, what you're still reading that book? Is there anything in
Yes, I am.
particular
Oh.
you want to read from there?
here.
There's this one, I do, if I can get the page.
It's a that,
I
that
got it.
warehouse.
I
is,
got it. I just want to read one long paragraph and then another paragraph that only has 3 sentences.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. This is in the beginning of the book,
Okay.
right? And I found this very very moving.
Mm-hmm.
I have said that there are few instances of a member of my race betraying a specific trust. One of the best illustrations of this, which I know of, is in the case of an ex-slave from Virginia, whom I met not long ago in a little town in the state of Ohio. I found that this man had made a contract with his master 2 or 3 years previous to the Emancipation Proclamation, to the effect that the slave was to be permitted to buy himself by paying so much per year for his body, and while he was paying for himself, he was to be permitted to labor where and for whom he pleased. Finding that he could secure better wages in Ohio, he went there. When freedom came, he was still in debt to his master some $300. Notwithstanding that the Emancipation Proclamation freed him from any obligation to his master, this black man walked the greater portion of the distance back to where his old master lived in Virginia and placed the last dollar with interest in his hands. And talking to me about this, the man told me that he knew that he did not have to pay the debt, but that he had given his word to his master, and his word he had never broken. He felt that he could not enjoy his freedom till he had fulfilled his promise. From some things that I have said, one may get the idea that some of the slaves did not want freedom. This is not true. I have never seen one who did not want to be free, or one who would return to slavery.
Well, that makes total sense. That's
This guy walked from Ohio to Virginia.
yeah, that is a moving story about a very ethical man. He went beyond, above and beyond. But he felt obligated because he made an agreement and it was his word. You don't find that kind of you don't see that as much. I'm sure I'm sure that maybe in those days people took their word much more seriously. I think we're in a time now where falsehoods, are normal.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Or that he didn't have anything else but his word.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
therefore, it was very important to him.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point, and we're living in a strange time, strange culture now.
But you know what else I found very interesting is that like right around that same paragraphs, I remembered a conversation I had when I was working at the Global Charter School.
Uh-huh.
And I was having a conversation with one of the music teachers.
Yeah.
And him and I were discussing the Civil War. And, and we were discussing that there was no real effort to help the slaves once they became free.
Of course not. They didn't want them to be free.
Right. And
Yeah.
so Yeah, so and that they were just said, okay, you're free now, and they were not prepared to be free, a lot of them, and they had to figure it out. But it was
without knowing how to read, without knowing anything about
right, right.
math. You know, there
Well,
was
Dr. Booker T here talks about not only that, but he also talks about in his autobiography that the slave owners were ill prepared to take care of themselves. They didn't know how to sew, they didn't know how to cook, they didn't know how to weed a garden, they didn't know how to grow vegetables, they didn't know how to do anything. And that's why the South, you found it in such ill repair.
We were watching, and we didn't finish watching it because Greg didn't like the movie, but we were watching a movie, and it was right after the Civil War, and this family was trying to keep their farm together, and they couldn't because they didn't have the skills. They were failing terribly. They couldn't keep the crops going, and even with the whole town coming to their assistance to help them with it, they were so dependent on the knowledge of the slaves to do what they needed to do that they I don't know. I wish I would have watched the whole movie, but Greg lost interest,
Yeah,
and then
but he writes about it in his autobiography that neither the slaves nor the slave owners were prepared.
Yeah.
To move forward.
I read a book, I think it was last year, that I picked up accidentally from somewhere, and it was about a guy who was a slave to a British a British captain, ship captain, and he wrote his own book about his experience in slavery, and he talked about the difference between being a slave to a British person and being a slave to an American person, and how much crueler and harsher the treatment was in the Americas. You know, so and he was very upset because he trusted that if he made a deal with somebody that they were going to keep their end of the deal, but the people in the Americas didn't feel that they needed to keep their word with a person of color. So he got screwed over and over again and lost whatever money he had invested because nobody wanted to be fair with him, you know. But he couldn't understand that, which I thought was charming. Because, you know, but anyway.
But it is true. Many scholars say that we had the cruelest form of slavery in all of history here in this country.
Yeah.
And it's really upsetting to come to that reality, and a lot of people don't want to believe it.
Well, of course.
There was that project. It was like essentially documenting lynchings in the United States, and they did some project. When you really start looking into it, it's quite disturbing.
During Jim Crow, it was pretty. You know what? That the book that I just finished a few months ago, Elizabeth Wilkerson. What the heck is Cast? Oh my God! If you want to learn,
Cast. My friend Peter read that book.
Cast. You got to read that book. I think every person should read that book because first of all, she's brilliant. Second of all, she gives you really interesting and simple analogies to everyday life so that you can compare, you know, and you can say, okay, this is equivalent to this, and it's like mind blowing. Like everything I read from in that book was mind blowing. So that's another one that's good to read. Okay, so now Richard, we only got one thing from you, and that was your shopping list.
Yeah.
That was so powerful. That was so helpful.
Yeah, I know.
Really.
I was.
So a couple of things I wanted to tell you.
Okay.
Ordinary things, okay?
Yeah, sure.
More and more. Well, first of all, an eclipse is coming in 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And just by coincidence, when it comes over Western New York, it'll be the perfect disc over the sun.
Yeah.
Not too far, but right on target.
Yeah.
Buffalo is on target to have 1 million visitors.
Woohoo!
That's what Mark Poloncarz said.
Beyond
How can we
the
profit off of this?
700,000 that are there.
Yeah.
And I think flights and hotel rooms are like
Wow, that's pretty
for
cool.
that day. So it's,
I'm excited. Yeah, I was lucky enough to see a eclipse once. It's cool. It's very cool. You have to have the right. You can't be like Trump and look up at it, but you see these waves of light on the ground. It's very cool.
No, if you're a Trump supporter, you need to do that.
No, we don't want to. I don't know. I still think there's a chance that. I don't know. I can't imagine what we could do to convince these people.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. Oh, that's not when it comes completely together, is it?
Well,
That-
it hasn't got there yet.
Well, no, yeah.
It's heading that way.
With the corona, and were you there? Did you take that picture?
No, this is someone that I have pictures like that when I was in the last one we had back, a few years ago. I've got pictures of that.
Yeah.
And they call it a wedding ring look, so
Yeah.
it'll look like a diamond ring on the top.
Yeah, I went. I was in Mexico during the 90s, and I went with Neil, and we had a real big adventure. It was great. It was really amazing. I'm glad I saw it, but it was.
We're going to get a good view here. It's
Yeah.
going to be nice here.
I'm
Everybody's going to be
excited.
out. And
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm going to have to get some glasses to use, or
I'm
we-
debating.
I think we used a welding mask.
Well, yeah, what you can do.
No, you don't want to use a
what you can
welding
do-
mask.
But we did that in Mexico.
'Cause that'll
and I
make it
still
look
can
green.
see.
Well, no, it doesn't block out the infrared or ultraviolet.
Okay,
Where can
Sure
we
it
get
does.
the glasses, Paula?
online.
Oh, a
they're in the library.
welding mask blocks out ultraviolet.
Yeah.
And
Better than
UV.
Well, not the infrared then.
Yeah.
I knew it was one or the other.
Yeah, I don't know.
The
I
infrared.
just know I'm not blind. Because
Mark
that's what I use.
Poloncarz said that we're not going to be able to drive anywhere or anything. That the roadways are going to be blocked, and
Oh
we're
yeah,
having-
it'll be.
and
They
then
stopped.
he says,
they stopped the traffic. They had to stop everything in Mexico where we were because it was just too chaotic.
"Really, this
Yeah.
is
Because
what he's
people are
saying."
looking at it.
Yeah.
And he's
everything
saying that
stopped.
if you haven't advertised your event yet, don't have it.
Could,
That's
could
what he's
we
saying.
could we predict that people will be stopping on the thruway, getting out of their cars and looking?
This is what he's saying.
Probably.
Yeah.
Hey,
That's.
what percentage of the people will just be driving through town and not knowing? Like there'll be people coming here because they know, but other people were.
It'll be
yeah,
dark.
I'm open.
I mean, it'll be it'll be dark like night and during the middle of the day.
Well, I guess I've heard that the animals like really freak out
The
because
animals freak out.
they're
Yeah,
they're way more in tune with
and
the
nature.
sun and
Yeah,
whatnot. So they like
and
at least
and
we know it's coming. You
in
know?
ancient times, it was very.
No, they just think it's nighttime and they
Yeah.
prepare for bed.
In ancient in ancient times, the people would think it was some kind of an omen, and they would wonder what they did wrong, because it was such a weird thing. Any kind of weird, like a comet or something, they didn't understand it, so they thought it was a sign from the gods.
I mean, it is kind of, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I hope we have a clear day.
Well,
Yeah,
and
I-
maybe
Well, even if it's cloudy, you'll be able to. There's ways to see it if you have proper filters to, because it's going to be so bright, it'll penetrate the clouds.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I don't know. I'm excited though. I hope we have good weather. I'd like to see the full effect like I did the first time. That was really a cool experience.
Well, they're saying no matter where you live in the Buffalo area, you're going to be able to see it if it's a clear day.
Yeah, because it's kind of a wide swath. It's the sun and it's far away. So I mean, if you live in Wyoming, it might be different, but it's going up the East Coast. There's it's got like a arch.
Yeah, I actually think I'm not going to be in Buffalo, but I'm going to be viewing the eclipse from Dallas, Texas, on that day.
Yeah, it won't be as
Really?
dramatic from
Which
there.
is weird because I've been telling people since like 2016 to be in Buffalo this day for the eclipse, and then
There's the
you're
one
gonna
I
be
took
Dallas?
the last
Ooh,
time.
Yeah.
yeah. So like I guess and
Cool.
part of the thing I kind of feel like I'm being called to an adventure, if that makes sense. So I think I'm like being called to like go to Dallas. Not kind of it wasn't by choice. It's kind of I don't know. The stars are aligning. I think for me to be down there.
Never say no to an adventure. Never.
Oh yeah, it's kind of one of those things. Like,
No.
it's not whether I want to go or not. It's more of I think the universe is telling me that that's where I need to be. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm
yeah.
gonna be.
Are you
seeing
gonna
the
be?
eclipse
Are you
for
gonna be there for a while, or is it
no,
just?
so my friend he ended up scheduling his like bachelor party out in Phoenix like the weekend before. So
Uh-huh.
at first I was like, what the heck? Because the flights back to Buffalo are like I think a one-way ticket from Phoenix to Buffalo was like $700.
Wow.
So yeah, once I was like, oh, I want to go to this, but I want to be in Buffalo for the eclipse. And then yeah, because all the hotel rooms, all the air flights are like extremely high on that day.
Wow.
I think I'm going to be picking up a second dog. So that's why. So a guy messaged me from Waco, Texas, that he has this a Tatra sheepdog, which is the kind of dog Guzar is. So I think my plan is to go down there and then drive. Kind of cross country from
And then
Dallas
get a
to.
dog.
I love
Yeah, with the dog.
I love driving across the country. I think it's really it's so much better than flying. I don't like I actually I'm not afraid to fly, but when I'm on a plane, I usually sit in the aisle seat and pretend I'm on a train.
Yeah. Well, there's that whole part of the country I've never been to, like this, like Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky. I've never been to that part, but I've always wanted to. So I'm excited now to kind of.
See, I've never been to
drive
the top part, like North and South Dakota, Washington State, Oregon. I've never been on. That's the only part of the country I've missed. We were trying to go when we were coming home from when we lived in Arizona. We were trying to drive back that way, but we got stuck in an ice storm in May.
Yeah, Buffalo's perfect location. Look at that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the red
in
line is the
middle.
eclipse,
That's
huh?
That's,
Anything in between those blue lines, you'll see totality.
oh boy.
So I think it's going to hit Newfoundland in a pretty good spot. Also, it should go. I think it's
Let's
going right
see.
across there.
Yeah, it is.
Yep, right there.
Look at
It's
that.
right there. Yeah, I'm going to be right here.
Where?
So
Right,
right here in St. John's.
St. John's. Okay.
Oh, you're just going to miss it.
Yeah, you'll just miss
a
it. You'll
little-
have
you're
to
gonna
go
have
up.
to drive in to the middle.
Well, I could go up here, but that's not too far of a drive.
No.
Yeah, you're definitely going to want to do that to see the totality.
Yeah, and
But-
you'll like it.
Yeah.
This is
You've seen it before,
Paul's
I
a
know.
guy who drove all the way to Allegheny just to photograph an eagle. So I think he's gonna drive for the eclipse.
You should, Paul. Never turn down an adventure.
Thank you. I saw that.
No,
movie.
What
I usually,
movie? What did we? I didn't know that was from a movie.
It's from Poor Things.
Oh, you saw Poor Thing.
Dallas.
She keeps saying
I
that.
probably got it from her and didn't even realize that. Did you like it?
Well, maybe our other panelists didn't see the movie Poor Things.
Oh, yeah.
I heard about it. I heard extraordinary things about it.
Yeah.
Remember the famous novel Candide?
Yeah.
It's like a reimagining of the novel.
Yeah.
So Dr. Pangloss
I
would
didn't
be
think of it,
would
yeah.
be William Dafoe, you
Yeah.
know. Very rational,
Yeah.
and he teaches her to be very rational about everything.
Oh, she is that. I love that movie. I thought it was fabulous. But anyway,
Oh, Paula, can I tell you who's going to be on my show for Women's History
who's going to
Month?
be on your show?
The superintendent of the National Park and Museum in Seneca Falls. Anna
How
Wilson.
cool! That is
Yeah.
very cool.
She's going to come in on Zoom.
Oh, nice. That was great. How did you get a hold of her?
I called her up.
I know. You know what? When Greg and I used to do interviews, we found out that, we always
Just call
seem
her
like
up.
there's such a distance between us and famous people, but there's not. We asked people we got to interview Leon Redbone. I couldn't believe it. I mean, not
Really?
yeah, we just asked his publicist, and they said yes. It was amazing.
You
But
know,
that's
you know
cool.
Called her up, and then
know-
I sent her then I sent her an email of what, of suggestions and what I want to ask her, because because I wanted to talk about the Declaration of Sentiments and whatever. And so
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
yeah, so
Congratulations.
I'm excited. So I'm excited, and she sounds young. She sounds very young and lively, a
cool.
lot of energy. Yeah.
Good. So, Richard, you were going to
Well,
say
you
something.
know how every show there's viewers, and you
Yeah.
can see how many there were.
Yeah.
Virginia's last show,
Yeah.
it's already up to 1,000 viewers.
Holy crow! What was your show on? I didn't see it.
It was a friend of mine, who's a medium in Rochester, New York.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, a lot of people are interested in that. That's a good topic.
But it was really kind of funny because I got all excited, because we had one phone call, and then I was trying to get the person off the phone, and because I was new at it, so I wasn't really skilled at getting people off the phone. I couldn't get this person off the phone, so I finally get this person off the phone, and so then like 10 minutes later the phone rings, and I'm like all excited. I'm like, oh, another call, and it was the same guy.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
He had another question. It was
Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny.
But what was nice about it when he called about, because he had some very serious questions, and so my friend, she sent me like paperwork that he can read, for me to get to him about that would help him with his personal situation, which I thought was very kind of her.
No, that was nice. Yeah, that was very nice.
And he was like all excited, but I think he was flirting with her too, because he was saying stuff like, "You're really looking good, Colleen." It was really a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun.
Good. I'm glad you're doing well. That's terrific. That's great. It's nice. I enjoy this. This is my Saturday night. Some people like to go out and drink. I did that already. I don't do that anymore.
Yes, you've evolved. You've evolved.
Yeah. So, okay. So now, Matt, is there anything new? You just gave us that information about you going to Dallas, which sounds like a pretty fun thing. Is there anything new going on with you besides that?
I mean, we covered it was the ESP. Yeah, my things were the plumes. I was curious if anyone else has been ever called to an adventure and whether they went on it or not, or.
Yeah, I have a feeling that adventure calls me all the time. We do that. I just feel I'm impulsive. I've got a problem. But yeah, I've had every time I've done that. Every time I've gone off to Maine by myself when I had to get away from my mother so I wouldn't kill her. I had a fabulous time. I met new people and I saw new things, and Greg and I went to the Rally for Sanity in Washington. We didn't have the money to go, but we charged it because we thought it was so important. That was back, I don't know when it was. We were still living in Arizona when the politics thing was getting so crazy. We thought, oh, let's show up there and be part of the Rally for Sanity. It was Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart. And it was great. You know what's great about it is being in that atmosphere with all of those like-minded people and feeling like there's hope. Like you talk about hope.
Yeah.
Feeling like there's hope.
Yeah.
Because they're all thinking the same, and they're all rational human beings. That was great. And when it comes to money, it's with stuff like that, I'd rather have the experience. I paid it off. That's gone.
I can understand
Yeah.
that. I did want to say one thing, Paula, that, when we were speaking about Dr. Izzeldin Abelayesh and the passing of his 3 daughters and niece, it was actually 2009. I looked it up to make sure that I'd gotten it correct. It was not 2007, it was 2009.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing that I want to say is I got in touch with, I had premiered the documentary Crazy Wise in Buffalo and Rochester at the Little Theater, and here in Buffalo at the North Park. And that gave me the confidence. There's a wonderful documentary coming out about Iron and Wine. Is the name Sam Beam plays under the moniker Iron and Wine, and it's he's a very well known contemporary folk singer. And his lyrics and his songs are unparalleled. Nothing like it. No, I've never seen anything like it.
Make a note of that.
But the documentary is actually Who Can See Forever, and I contacted his publicist, and they're looking at bringing it to both the North Park and the Little based on my recommendation. So I'm working with them to bring Who Can See Forever, the documentary, to Buffalo and Rochester.
5 minutes.
What was the name of that folk singing you said?
Iron and Wine.
Iron and Wine, and the documentary is called Who Can See Forever, which is a lyric of his in one of his songs.
Iron and Wine. I'm putting it in my.
Yeah,
notes.
it's Samuel Beam, B-E-A-M.
Since we only have 5 minutes left, can I ask a mental health question?
Sure.
This week, an active duty airman set himself on fire outside the Israeli embassy. As he was burning, he shouted out, "Free Palestine." The Secret Service came out with a fire extinguisher and they doused him, and by the time he got to the hospital, he was dead. In your opinion, is this an act of a brave individual who's trying to improve the world, or the act of a mentally ill person?
Yeah.
I think it's a
Mentally
little
ill.
bit of both.
I was going to say the same thing, Paula.
I think it's somebody who wants to make a difference, but I think the choice of killing yourself always, don't you feel it's always has to do with poor mental health?
I mean, maybe, but the top is actually much larger than we can really explore in the remaining few minutes. But I would like to say this, that the whole notion of having hope is very, very important for mental health. And when people lose hope, that's when we see mental health issues or mental health distress. Because, what you're talking about is the interplay of the body and the physical needs, which we have to have self-preservation for, versus our consciousness, which is selflessness, which just wants to serve and give. So we're all stuck in this interplay of service, offering things, and self-preservation. And there's a lot of confusion in the world about practical applications of what that looks like. So that self-emulsion, but letting yourself on fire, you're called to serve in a way that is not self-preservation, but that your care for the community or the right exceeds your own self-preservation. There's something about that that needs a lot more exploring. Because even in Japanese culture, there's seppuku or harikari where it's ritual suicide where you disembowel yourself. Yeah.
And Diane Jolie says, how is this different from the monk who set himself on fire during the Vietnam War?
Yeah.
Well,
that's right, Diane. Welcome,
I would
Diane.
just like to say something about this military person from a veteran's point of view. There's a thing that's called moral injury. And I'm of the opinion that this service person was suffering from moral injury.
Was this the service person that? Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
he was an airman. He was in the United States Air Force. And I think that, and it's a silent killer of the human psyche. Because our service people go in to these situations and we believe that we're helping our country, but then we realize what the reality is, like sometimes that we're fighting for oil, and we have what is called a moral injury. And it's real. And I do.
Of course, it's real. Yeah,
I think that perhaps this poor young man was suffering from moral injury.
If I could just interject one thing very quickly, is that the problem with all that, trauma is able to be overcome if you are in community and able to truthfully, authentically, and genuinely share your trauma in a non-judgmental way. That heals us, but veterans have very little of that. Very little capacity, very little opportunity to do that.
Also with men, there's even now there's this problem of sharing emotional information with other people. They feel that it's unmanly to do that.
Plus you have when you're in the military, you have classified information, and sometimes we can't talk about things. Not only do we not want to because our bodies will go into trauma, because the brain can't tell the difference between a memory or something actually happening, but also because we're not allowed to.
Yeah.
because it's classified. And the military knows that the sooner that we can talk about it, the less likely we're going to develop PTSD. But there's no time.
Yeah.
And war is a very complicated
Okay.
matter.
All right. We're on our way out now, people.
I'm sorry.
No problem. This has been a great show. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And I won't be doing a show now for 3 weeks because I'll be otherwise occupied on Saturday nights for the next 3 weeks.
Oh yes, for your show.
Yes. But if Richard wants to do it, there's nothing holding him from doing it.
Somebody else would have to step up.
All right. So I will see you, everyone, at the end of next month.
Okay, well,